All right, class, we'll be discussing today the structure of the proposal. Proposal structure vary greatly from one organization to another. A long, complex proposal might have 10 or more sections, including introduction. Please note down the important sections here: introduction, problem, objectives, solution, methods, and resources, and management. If the authorizing agency provide an IFB, you already know what it is, RFP, or a set of guidelines, follow it closely. If you have no guidelines, or if you're waiting and writing an unsolicited proposal, use the structure shown here as a starting point. Then modify it according to your subject, your purpose, the needs of your audience. An example of proposal is presented on page 290-95. So that means it varies, right? So there is no hard and fast structure. But for your exam, you are going to follow the structure of the proposal presented here in this book, right? Otherwise, in real life, it may vary. Now, one of the important components of the structure of the proposal is summary. For a proposal of more than few pages, provide summary. Many organizations impose a length limit that is 250 words. That means if you've been asked to write a proposal of a particular word count, you got to follow that, or a summary of a particular word count, you got to follow that, right? Okay. Ask the writer to present the summary single spaced or on the title page. The summary is crucial because it might be the only item that readers study in the initial review of the proposal. So it depends. They may ask you to write a summary on the single page, right? Okay, instead of like 2 pages summary or 3 pages. It depends. Usually, a summary is of one third of the whole thing, the whole report or proposal whatsoever. In both cases, even if you're writing a report or a proposal whatsoever, usually the summary is of one third of the document, right? The summary is crucial because it might be the only item that readers study in the initial review of the proposal. Same goes for the report as well. The summary covers the major elements of the proposal, but devotees only a few sentences to each. That means you don't have to write many sentences or a lot of sentences, right, for each item. You just have to sum up each section. That means you are going to use some sentences about each section, right? Instead of elaborating things, you have to sum them up, right? Okay, described the proposal. Next, describe once you are done with that, define the problem in a sentence or two. Then you actually propose, program, and provide a brief statement of your qualification and experience. Some organizations wish to see the completion. Let me add one student here first. Let me scroll down. Some organizations with wish to see the completion date and the final budget also, right? In the summary, others prefer that this information be presented separately on the title page along with other identifying information about the supplier and the proposed project. So you have to like rely on to the instructions, right, given by the organizations, right? So it can be done either way. You can give it separately, or you can include it in the summary section. Now let's talk about introduction. The purpose of the introduction is to help readers understand the context, situation, background, right? And scope, right? For example, if you're writing a research proposal, right, and you're writing about trends, of smoking trends in teenagers, then anything related to is smoking, right? for example, smoking and adults, right? Okay, is of course beyond the scope of your research because your title says smoking and teenagers or smoking among teenagers or something like that, right? So the keywords are smoking and teenagers. So you're not going to write about smoking and adults or anything related to adults regarding their smoking trends and all that, right? Okay. Then we have guidelines. Okay, let me do one more thing. All right. Yes, guidelines. Introduce a proposal. So, how are you going to introduce it? Introducing a proposal involves the first thing that is that you got to state the problem or opportunity. So, describe the problem or opportunity in specific monetary terms because the proposal itself will include a budget and you want to convince your readers that spending money on what your purpose is smart. Don't say that design problem is slowing down production. Say that it is costing this a day in loss so that means it has to be persuasive. It should it should draw the reader's attention. And of course, if you talk in monetary terms, it's going to attract readers, right? It's going to convince them. Okay, what is the purpose of the proposal? Let me clear all of this first. Let me scroll down a little. Okay, annotate. What is the purpose of the proposal? The purpose of the proposal is to describe a problem or opportunity and propose activities that will culminate in a deliverable. Be specific in explaining what you want to do. I think I discussed in the previous lecture also that when you're writing a proposal, right? You're basically you're basically bound to deliver something. If you're writing a research proposal, you are likely to write a report about it along with findings, recommendations, and all that. If you're writing a proposal related to a service or a product, right? Okay, then you are, of course, going to deliver that product or service, right? Or supply that service, right? Okay, so you have to focus on deliverables, right? When you're actually writing about your purpose of the proposal, right? Okay, be specific in explaining what you want to do. Now, this is, for example, if you are, let's suppose, your topic is smoking and teenagers or is smoking among teenagers. Let's suppose. Why have you chosen this topic, right? Why one should invest in this topic, right? Or yes, why one should invest in this study or research, right? Okay, so there got to be a rationale behind it, justification, right? Okay, and let's suppose if you're writing on a proposal, right, and you're sending this research proposal to a company who manufactures, the company which manufactures cigarettes, right? And your title is trends, right? Smoking trends, right? Okay, or trends in smoking, whatever, smoking trends among teenagers, right? Okay, so if you're this is your topic. Now you got to think that how this research on this topic, right, should benefit the company who is manufacturing cigarettes or the tobacco company and all that. So you got to, like, link your topic your research topic, right? And the benefit the company is going to, you know, draw from the findings, right? So you got to basically come up with the purpose. Why am I writing it? So you can say that, okay, if I uh, conduct this research, the findings may help the company, right, to come up with better strategies, you know, to attract teenagers, let's suppose, right? So this is something like you're talking in monetary terms, sort of, right? You are actually sharing the reader's benefit, right? You're offering a benefit. So now your proposal is quite specific. They know that what you're trying to do and why are you conducting a research and how they're going to get benefit from it, right? They know that, right? So this is what they mean. This is what they mean when they say that be specific in explaining what you want to do and why you want to do, right? Okay, let me admit a student here. Let me clear all of this. Then what is the background of the problem or opportunity? Although you probably will not be telling your readers anything they don't already know, show them that you understand the problem or opportunity. For example, in this very example, you can say that, okay, the government has banned smoking advertisements, right? Okay, fine. It's difficult to attract, uh, teenagers, right? Okay, fine. Now, I think a research should be carried out, right? What are the sources, right? they they can get, information about smoking, or they can get convinced how to can they get convinced that they should smoke, right? Or so, like, what are those sources basically, right? Maybe a celebrity, maybe a fashion magazine, right, in which they show that someone is smoking, right, without mentioning that it's being advertised, something like that. Okay, so you are basically, you start up with the problem, or you tell the opportunity, and this is how you justify your topic. Okay, you justify that whatever you are doing, right, it's going to benefit the reader, whosoever the reader is, right? It depends, it, of course, it varies from a situation to situation. It depends that what sort of proposal you are engaged with, right? So of course, all these things are generic, right? So you have to apply all these things to a specific situation, basically using your discretion. So this is not something hard and fast. What are your sources of information? How are you going to collect the information about it, right? Okay, so are you going to conduct a survey or what? So relevant literature ranging from internal reports, memos to published articles, even books, right? So how are you going to carry out the research? Now please remember one thing, all of this is generic, right? Now, when you are writing a proposal, you have to understand the context, you have to understand deliverables, whether it's a research report, am I going to present a report or not, or I have to offer a product or service, it depends. So I would not say that, like, you have got to follow it blindly, right? You don't have to follow it blindly, you have to use your discretion, right? And that's the key thing in exam. What is the scope of the proposal? I've already talked about that. What is the scope? What is the organization of the proposal? Explain the organizational pattern you will use, right? Sorry for the slip by. Okay, then let's scroll down. What is the organization of the proposal? What are the key terms that you will use in proposal? If you will use any specialized or unusual terms, define them in the introduction. Let me add a student over here. Okay, let me scroll down. Proposed program. In the proposed program, sometimes called the plan of work, explain what you want to do, be specific. You won't persuade anyone by saying that you plan to gather the data, analyze it. How will you gather and analyze the data? Justify your claims. Every word you say or don't say will give you readers evidences on which to base their decision. Now, please, one thing I just want to mention once again, and I have been mentioning it earlier also, that this proposed program, these guidelines, right, perhaps they have been written in respect of or related to a research proposal. So when you are writing a proposal to offer a product, right, you may change, some of the elements, right? Okay, so you have to use your discretion, please. Keep that thing in mind. Okay, and again, it depends on what sort of product is being offered and all that. Let me scroll down. If your project concerns a subject written about in the professional literature, show your familiarity with the scholarship by referring to the pertinent studies. So this is done in research when you're writing a research proposal or research reports and all that. So you tell them that how much you have already gone through. That means you know a great deal about the topic, right? Okay, you have fully grasped the topic and all that, right? However, don't just string together a bunch of citation. For example, don't write Caruthers 2010 and Harding and Vega and all that. All have researched the relationship between global warming and groundwater contamination. Rather, use the recent literature to sketch the necessary background, provide the justification for your proposed program. For instance, Caruthers, Harding, and Vega have demonstrated the relationship between global warming and groundwater contamination. None of these studies, however, included an analysis of the long-term contamination of the aquifer the current study will consist of. So it's not only that you're just simply telling what they have done, rather you have to link it with your study or with the scope of your study or something like that, right? Or whatever you want to do, right? So you got to link it with the literature. Okay, you might include only few references to recent research. However, if your topic is complex, you might devote several paragraphs, even several pages. Depends. Whether your project calls for primary research, secondary research. Primary research means that you, take the data directly, like you survey people, you collect the data and all that, right? So that all data hasn't been published yet, basically. Whereas the information you collect from magazine, journals and all that is part of the secondary research, right? So you can use both. The first hand data is called basically a primary research, or is obtained through a primary research, right? Okay, now let me scroll down. You might Whether your project calls for primary research, secondary research, or both, the proposal will be persuasive if you haven't already done a substantial amount of research. So that means you got to display your knowledge, right? You got to convince readers that you have already got a great, you know a great deal about the topic and all that. You're not being persuasive if you write that you're going to visit Walmart, Lewis, and Home Depot to see what kind of lawn mowers they carry. The statement is unpersuasive for two reasons. You need to justify why you are going to visit those three retailers rather than others. Anticipate your readers' questions. Why did you choose? these three retailers? Why didn't you choose a specialized tailors and all that? You should already have visited the appropriate stores and completed any other primary research. If you haven't done the homework, readers have no assurance that you will in fact do it or what it will pay off. If your supervisor authorizes the project, then learns that none of the loan movers on the market meets your organization needs, and you will have to go back and submit a different proposal, an embarrassing move. For example, you're working in a company, right, which requires lawn movers, right? So if you haven't collected data about it, right, okay, and you just submit a proposal, and later on your boss tells you that this is not what they were looking for, right? Then of course you will face embarrassment. That means some sort of research should have been carried before you submitted your proposal. Now let me scroll down. Qualifications and experience. After you have described how you would carry out the project, you show that you can do it. The more elaborate the proposal, the more substantial the discussion of your qualification experience has to be. For a small project, include a few paragraphs describing your technical credentials and those of your coworker. For a larger projects, include the resume of the project leader and often called the principal investigator and the other important participant. Okay, now here they have shown you a document, right? And it is a proposed program sample, right? And rather an extract from a proposed program. Let me uh, annotate this one and discuss with you guys. Just wait for a while. The writer has used a lettering system. Yes, we can see lettering system here to describe the four main tasks that he will undertake if he receives funding. What are the advantages of a lettering system? The first advantage is, of course, it will bring clarity, right? Okay, and then each task stands out, right? This stands out, this also stands out. So the reader can note down if he is particularly sorry, if he is interested in a particular task, right? Okay, so he can jot down the information easily. Had there not been any letters or headings or subheadings and all that, of course it would have given the reader a tough time, right? Now let me remove this. Let me scroll down it further. Okay, then comes another question and said how effective the description of task A, what factors contribute to the description's effectiveness or lack of effectiveness. Now let's read this one. The first component of this project is the physical examination of all Somerville PD Swan employees of special interest for purposes of the project are resting, pulse rate, target pulse rate, blood pressure, and percentage of body fat of the program participant. Dr. Feinberg will perform the physical examination for of all participating officers. The measurement of body fat will be conducted at